Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and today I'm here to talk about the generator type in human design. And if you haven't already, please feel free to check out my other videos, where you can learn more about human design and how you can use it in your life. Because the more you know about yourself, the easier life gets. So let's look at the generator type and what it means to be a generator type in human design. As you can see from the diagram, the generator type makes up 36% of all the other types, and is the most common in human design. Now, even though it looks very similar to a manifesting generator type, there are definitely some differences that are important for a generator type to know. And the first one has to do with the motor. If you watched any of my other videos, you might have seen this diagram already. But for those who haven't, here's a brief description of what a motor is and how it works in a human design body graph. In human design, there are 4 motors in the body graph, the strongest of which is the sacral motor. And the weakest motor is the root motor because that's the furthest away from the throat. And the name of the game in human design is to get energy to the throat. And when you have a motor to the throat, it means the energy gets to the throat much faster. And since the throat is considered the center for manifestation, or the place where dreams become reality, then getting energy to the throat, especially by a motor which is stronger and more powerful, can mean that things happen easier and quicker for some types than others. That doesn't mean that other energy types are at a disadvantage. It just means that the energy getting to the throat isn't as consistent as it would be with someone who has a direct motor to the throat. In other words, someone with a motor to the throat doesn't necessarily need people to make things happen, and somebody without a motor to the throat needs other people's energy to help them complete the channel so that they too can have a motor to the throat. And for those who have a non-motorized throat, knowing that you need energy from other people to get things done is key information that will help you make the things happen that you want to in your life. Just looking at the charts, it's very easy to see that a generator type and also a manifesting generator type are very similar. Unlike the other 3 types, they both have defined sacrals. And having a defined sacral is one of the most important characteristics that separate the generator types from all the other types. So if we know that all generator types have a defined sacral, how do we know the difference between a manifesting generator and a generator type? Once again, it all comes down to a motor, because a manifesting generator type will always have a motor to the throat, and the generator type will never have a motor to the throat. And that's one of the main ways you can tell the difference between the two. So we can see that all generator types will have a defined sacral, indicated by the red square at the bottom of the chart. But unlike a manifesting generator who will always have a brown square or a defined throat center, generator types can have a defined throat or an undefined throat, as you can see here, and they will never have a motor to the throat. And when a generator type has a defined throat, it can sometimes be confusing because you might assume that because it's brown, it's also motorized. But the fact is that having a brown throat means it's defined, but certainly doesn't mean that it's motorized as well. So what's the difference between a defined throat and an open throat? In human design, whenever we talk about an open center or an undefined center, it means that the energy coming into that center is inconsistent or can change based on the people you're with. When something's defined, it means that the energy is more consistent. In the case of a defined throat center, it means that the way you speak and what you speak about can be dependent upon the gates or the channels that are linked to your throat. So for instance, if your throat is connected to your solar plexus or emotional center, then you could talk a lot about your feelings. Of course, there's more to say about the throat center, but for the purposes of this video, understanding that a brown square does not mean a motorized throat is all we need to know. And also that a generator can have an open throat or a defined throat and still not have a motor to the throat. So if we look at this chart of Richard Branson, we notice right away that he's a generator type, and he also has a defined throat. It would be easy to assume that he's a manifesting generator type, but if you take a closer look, you'll see that his throat is defined by having defined channels that lead from the identity center and also the ajna, neither of which are motors. He has a sacral motor defined, as all generator types do, and he also has a defined emotional center. But if you notice, there's no direct connection from his emotional center to his throat, or a direct connection from his sacral to his throat. Or instead, he has what's called hanging gates or half channels. Now, if we look at Lady Gaga's chart, we see that she has an undefined throat, so no complete channels from any centers to her throat. She also has 3 motors defined, and most importantly, to say that she's a generator type is the sacral motor, which she has defined. But she also has 2 other motors defined, and those are the will center and also the root center. In fact, as I said before, she has absolutely no centers that make it to the throat. I mentioned that generator types are people who need people, or people who need other people to get a motor to the throat and also to make things happen in their lives. And anyone who knows Lady Gaga or Richard Branson can easily say that these guys made things happen in their lives. So how did they do that? I've already talked about projectors, reflectors, and also generators being people who need people, and manifesting generators and manifestors having the energy they need to manifest already. So let's talk about exactly what that means. So if we know that the throat is the center for manifestation, and that everything in human design is about getting energy to the throat so that things can happen, how can people who don't have a motorized throat get things to happen in their lives? And that's where electromagnetics come into play. So if you look at the diagram, person A has the gate 12 and it's defined, but it doesn't have the opposite gate, which is the gate 22. But person 2 has a gate 22. When these people are together, then they can talk about their emotions, and also they'll bring a motor to the throat. Now, if neither of these people actually have a motor to the throat, then this is helpful for both of them. And even if one person has a motor to the throat already, but yet they don't have a connection to the throat from the emotional center, this can give them an opportunity to talk about their feelings where they may not feel comfortable doing that with other people. Because the theory is that whatever gets to the throat is something that you can talk about. And if it doesn't get to the throat, you might have more of a difficult time talking about it. The theory about electromagnetics is that basically we're always looking for the match to the hanging gates in our chart, or we're naturally attracted to people who, for lack of a better word, complete us. So in the case of a generator type, when they get a motor to the throat, that means that they can start making things happen, just like a manifesting generator or a manifestor does. And that can be related to the people that they're with or also planetary transits. And when I say needing other people's energy, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a big group of friends. It can mean just going out to a coffee shop and getting your work done so you can get the energy that you need to complete the channel so that you have a motor to the throat. And another way to get a motor to the throat that you can experiment with is what's called transits, or when certain planets hit certain parts of the astrological chart or gates of the body graph. And when they land on these particular gates, the energy of that gate becomes available to everyone. So now that we know that a generator has a non-motorized throat, what else do we know about a generator? As I've mentioned before, generator types, both manifesting generators and generators, are the only types that have a defined sacral. And what does it mean to have a defined sacral? As I mentioned before, in human design, when a center is defined, it means the energy is more fixed and consistent, meaning the way you express this energy is more routine. And when you have an undefined center, that means the energy is more inconsistent. So the way you express this energy is dependent upon the people that you're with. So when a generator type has a defined sacral, that means that their energy is consistent, or they have like a battery pack of energy that they never have to recharge and is accessible whenever they want it. And that's why the generator types are considered the workers of all the human design types. So the key word for generator type is workers, and their goal is to find happiness in the work they do. When a generator finds the right work and they're happy in what they're doing, they have all the energy they need to complete all their tasks and get the job done. Generators are here to be masters in their work and learn by the stair-step curve for mastery, which is steady progress in achieving mastery in the job or career that they've chosen for themselves. When a generator is not in the right work, they may feel exhausted, run down, and have no energy to do anything. Just like manifesting generator types are here to respond to opportunities and jobs that show up in their life. But when a generator type is trying to make things happen like they're a manifestor, or they reach a plateau where they're not getting any better in their job or career, a generator can become frustrated, which is a generator theme when they're not happy. Because the nature of a generator is to respond to opportunities that show up in their world, When they're purely going on inspiration rather than waiting for something in their outside world to respond to, they can be initiating many things and putting a lot of work into all of it, but not reaping the benefits that they had hoped for. Their frustration can also come from working a long time, continuing to improve in a job that they're doing, but at some point plateauing out and not improving. And because they don't see the benefits anymore, they may want to quit that job. But for a generator, just when they feel like they're stuck and things aren't working, this is usually the time where they have a breakthrough and move on to the next level of their career or mastery. And if they hold on and wait until that breakthrough comes, they can achieve satisfaction. And that's really all a generator type wants, to find happiness and satisfaction with the job that they do. And when they find this, all the other parts of their lives may work out easier for them. That's the end of part 1, but if you're interested in finding out more about a generator type and their strategy on how to get the best out of their life, be sure to check out part 2,